Welcome to the Inspired by Jacqueline podcast, a refreshing place for women struggling with entrepreneurship, faith, or infertility. Stay tuned for today's episode. Welcome everyone to another episode of Inspired by Jacqueline. Wow, it's been such a great few months just really honing in on what I want you to hear, who I want to bring to you. And today is such a special moment because I met this beautiful, amazing person. And to hear her story, I was like, yes, I need to connect with her. And I hope that a lot of what I present to you in these episodes, that it's bringing connections, how to build connections and how to feel a genuine connection and understanding the flow when it comes to that. Networking is about a genuine conversation, a genuine building of a relationship. And I really was touched by this person's story, but also just by her journey and her genuineness and our connection with faith. And that's why she's here to talk about faith. And we're going to have a beautiful conversation. The special guest, her name is Dena McCoy, and she is the author of Greed and Grace, a faith-based memoir. She is a member of SAG and AFTRA, Authors Guild and SohoMuse. She is a multi-talented creative with a background in commercial acting, modeling, fashion, freelance writing, online media copywriting. A mother of two, Dena is also the fourth generation trustee and vice president of her family's 75-year-old philanthropic foundation in her home state of Oregon. Dena is an independent business owner, and she is currently writing her second book, as well as developing a lifestyle blog and online course designed to empower women who are navigating life's crossroads. She is inspired to help others cultivate inner strength through physical, emotional, and spiritual wellness. So welcome, Dena. And anything else to add to that?
Thank you, Jacqueline. Oh my goodness. Well, you did such a wonderful job. You know, we're always growing and we're always learning from others. And so I'm so honored to be here. And I felt the same way when I met you, that we just connected on so many levels as women and entrepreneurs and women of faith. So being asked to be here today to talk about that journey and how we might, as women, learners, as humans, really move others through our own personal experience. So thank you for that lovely introduction and for this platform, which is so exciting. I really love what you're doing for women. I'm inspired. So to be a part of it today is just a true honor. Thank you.
Thank you. And so let's start the conversation with, how do you start your morning? What inspires you early morning? And what is part of your routine?
I love this question. It's something that I'm actually trying to build on in my coursework that I want to teach people. But my morning routine really came out of trying to kind of survive a very difficult journey that I've been going through in the last decade. And I would wake up in the morning and the moment of consciousness was just painful. All of a sudden I just had these racing to-do lists and obligations, and fear was really gripping me first thing in the morning. And of course, I think it's so natural that we grab our phone and we just let the world in. And I realized that I was allowing things into my mind, into my heart, into my consciousness that were just not serving me. So my mornings start religiously, pun intended, very three-pronged. So the moment I wake up, before I even put my feet on the floor, I have an awareness of being a child of God. And I have an awareness that I am already in spiritual warfare, that the enemy is already trying to work on me and attack me. So I pray for wisdom, I pray for discernment, and I pray for protection from anything that's meant to deceive me. It's a three-pronged prayer. And having the power of the Holy Spirit is something that
Mm,
I invite in. I think that we tend not to utilize that energy and that gift.
mm,
So every morning I start with just those three asks of the Holy Spirit to just really walk with me and protect me, give me the wisdom, give me the discernment. And I am constantly also listening to sermons or listening to lectures and listening to other messengers to just fortify me, because fear has a way of gripping us very early in
mm.
the day. If we feel a shortcoming that might be on the horizon, if we feel that we are overwhelmed, we feel that we might not be able to meet the day's obligations, it's so easy to just get in your head. So I start my day off with prayer. Sometimes it's very short, sometimes it's lengthy. I do set my alarm at least 30 minutes before I actually have to get up. And
Oh, wow.
I do that. I really do that because it's a gift to myself. And it has made an enormous impact on the rest of my day. I cannot stress that enough. And not only do I pray in the morning, but I have developed just sort of an ongoing conversation with God throughout the day, just silly things, like, can you help me fix my hair today? I'm struggling. I'm having a bad hair day. I'm realizing that kind of what we think of leaning on our faith or being deep in prayer doesn't have to be so formal. We don't have to be in a house of worship, that it can just be a conversation. So that conversation starts very early for me in the day. It's private, but it's always based on those three things,
Mm,
because before I leave the house, I want to make sure that I'm protected. I've had a lot of things that have
mm.
called for that protection. So it gives me a lot of peace.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for sharing that, because there's two things out of what you said that just really hit me. The first is when you shared about times that you would wake up in the morning and it was like, I
Yeah,
felt that because I've
yeah,
been there. And it's
yeah,
like, oh, you mean I still feel horrible like this? I still
yeah.
feel like I still have that burden on me?
Yes,
Like
yes.
opening up your eyes and feeling that, it's like, wow.
Yeah, it's heavy.
Versus, yeah. And instead of waking up with this beautiful spirit and strength and energy, like
Yes.
when you said that, I felt it. It took me back to years
Oh, that's good.
ago when I was there, when I felt like I didn't even want to open my eyes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
I went through a period of time where and it wasn't so very long ago, where consciousness hurt. That's
Mm,
what I could just feel, just coming out of sleep and waking up and feeling my mind and my awareness just sort of sharpen. And all of a sudden, we have these worldly thoughts of where we are in the world, what happened last night, or what happened or didn't happen yesterday. And it's a choice whether or not we want to
mm,
bring that into our next day. So developing that morning routine is something that I had to make a very conscientious decision that it would have to almost happen the night before, when I was
mm,
really, really trying to develop, how do I start my day not feeling like I'm 6 feet underground? I mean, I went through a period of time, and I do write about it in my book, where I didn't feel whole, and I didn't feel peace, and I didn't feel any sense of joy until about lunchtime every day, because
mm,
it was taking me all morning to get to that place. So I was looking to kind of fast track that. And, how can I have joy earlier? How can I feel peace? Things might not always be exactly as they want. And it might be a day where your calendar is filled with things that you don't want to face. I went through some very difficult moments, going through a divorce and some legal issues in my family, which I write about in my book, and just waking up and saying, I'm not facing anything that I want to face today, but I have to get through it. And by the grace of God, I have
mm.
to. So I made the decision the night before. And it was very helpful to really develop a plan. Like the minute I wake up, I'm going to go to this. I'm going to go to a devotional. I'm going to go to, I leaned very heavily as I still do on Joyce Meyer. Joyce Meyer,
Mm-hmm.
a woman of faith who she's
Mm-hmm.
my TV mom. So I needed that maternal voice. I
Yeah.
needed that word of God through someone else. So yeah, so developing a routine in the morning is critical. I really think that we start to speak to ourselves through the way that social media is going to, oh, how many likes did I get overnight?
Mm-hmm.
Who hit on we define ourselves by the world, and I wanted to start defining myself by who I was in his eyes. And that
Yes.
starts first thing in the morning.
Yes. And the other thing that you mentioned was that 30-minute grace that you give yourself before you even contemplate on getting up. And I just recently shared a post to give you time to kind of shut down the noise,
Yes.
get ready. And one thing I mentioned was either giving yourself a half an hour to an hour when your alarm either goes off or you just wake up and you're able to just lay there
Yeah.
and just be and just enjoy that moment before you even start grabbing your phone or anything like that. So
Yeah.
I'm so happy that you shared those two things because that really resonated with me and especially understanding the routine. I had a special guest that mentioned about the evening before, how
Mm-hmm.
it sets the precedence for the next morning. And
It
so
does.
thank you for sharing that as well.
Sure.
And so when were you made aware of faith and define what faith is to you?
I've always been a believer. I grew up in a family that I had a great grandfather who I didn't know who was a Presbyterian minister. I always saw the Bible sort of in my grandparents' homes, and my mother really instilled a lot in me as a child. But I was kind of more of like a Christmas and Easter churchgoer. So I didn't really know how to live what I believe. I think that life has a way of happening, and pain can give us a lot of clarity. So
Mm,
pain is something that I used to really shun. And now I don't outwardly welcome pain to come into my world, but when it does, I realize it's an opportunity. So as I got older and life started to happen,
mm,
stumbling blocks, and I would say that I really had a very strong connection to living what I believed when my daughter was born, and she was born with a severe kidney issue that really sort of tempted the possible longevity of her
mm,
young life. So I had to step aside from wanting to be in control of that situation and realize that I had to hand it over to God. And it
mm.
is the first chapter of my book and it's called Submission.
I was gonna say that
Yeah.
I love that chapter being the first one.
Yeah, it had to be the first one because that was really a very defining moment in my faith of letting go of the control
Mhm,
as, just as a human, as a mother, as somebody in the world who has accessibility to the internet and doctors and all of these worldly means of information. And I had to really submit and just let go of the outcome. So I would say that in earnest, that's when my faith really started to come into focus.
mm,
And she had a miracle. I mean, the doctor said to us that he had no medical explanation for her healing. And,
wow.
so I go into that in the book, but it is something that I recount because it was something that was so supernaturally
Mm,
powerful. I've heard Joyce Meyer say, we believe in gravity, we don't see it, but we
mm,
we rely on it every
wow.
day. Right? So we rely on gravity, we know it exists. Faith is something that we can't see, but we feel it and we turn to it and we know that it's there, much like gravity. Faith for me is really trusting something greater than myself.
Mm,
It's something and a knowing that there is something more powerful than me, more powerful than a teacher or a lawyer or a parent or a worldly messenger. Faith is just that knowing of having a humility in your heart about wanting to learn and wanting to grow and trusting a higher power, whatever that might be. For me, I trust the word of God. I believe in Jesus and I believe in the power of the Holy Spirit. So I speak that openly, and I hope to invite people to find their own journey
Yes.
through maybe what I've experienced or others have experienced. But I feel called to talk about it. I think
Mm-hmm.
faith is something that is too important not to. So I am very
Yes.
privileged whenever I'm asked to speak about it. And if I'm not speaking about it, I think faith is something that we can practice every day, just
Yeah.
kindness and setting an example,
Mm.
being a giver of a smile, a doer of
Mhm.
going the extra mile for somebody, putting the shopping cart away, as Joyce Meyer says, in the parking lot. Be the person that does what you're supposed to do and take it to the next level. So if words can't transcend to inspire, certainly actions can. So it's just being the best version of yourself.
That is beautiful. It's funny that you say about the shopping cart because I read something somewhere about a shopping cart and how that defines you, right? That when you're done with the shopping cart, what do you do with it?
Right.
And you can be really put in a certain box based on what you do after you're done with the
Yes.
shopping cart. Do you actually walk back to wherever you can put it, that section that it should be, or do you just leave it in the corner?
Right. You're like trying to jimmy rig it so it's not going to roll into the car next to you.
Yes,
You spend 10 minutes doing that, but really you could have just spent the same
you
amount
could
of
have
time
just walked.
doing the right thing. So I had that moment last night at the grocery store. I was like, thank you. I have to give Joyce Meyer credit for that because she even has a little sticker that says, put it back. I have that on my refrigerator. But I just think it's so funny because in our everyday lives, we have the ability to be a good example.
Yes.
Waiting in line, having some patience, having some grace. Been the cashier on the other side of the counter. I have been that person in customer service. I have encountered, the people that are angry, the people that don't have patience. And patience is really, it's something that I have struggled with,
Mhm.
especially as a New Yorker. We want everything
Oh,
fast.
yes.
Now,
Yes.
yeah, we want it yesterday. When I go home to Oregon, it always takes me a little bit of time to get that New York off of me, go to the grocery store. And a lot of times people will still write a check, or they'll just kind of have
Mm,
a little more conversation and take more time. And I have to just say, just calm down. You're going to get
mhm,
there. It's okay. You don't have to rush. So patience is a big part of faith.
mm,
We can pray about something. We can ask God to move in a way in our life, and we want it now. We don't want to wait.
mhm.
I think it's important to remember what He has already done in our lives. I think it's
Mm,
very easy to have this anticipation and sort of a laundry list of, checking off, well, this is what I want, and going to God and always asking for something.
mhm,
And the real moment of grace is saying, what can I do for you?
mm.
Whether you're asking that of God or you're asking that of somebody else, what can I
Yeah.
do for you? Put
Wow.
yourself in a place of service.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
I think that that's also a big part of faith
And
as well.
I'm glad that you said that you start your chapter, and I see it how relevant it is. You start submission as being that first, and to me it made sense because I feel that when you submit, you're able to start accepting,
That's right.
understanding, solutions, healing, all of
That's
that. Because when you're not submitting, you can't see all that
that's
coming.
right. So, yep, exactly.
So what can you share, like a moment in your journey that you want to elaborate a little bit on? Because I know you share a lot in your book. What struggle kind of made you second guess faith or felt like it was just drifting away that you just couldn't see it?
Yeah. I think it really has to do with that patience piece. It's the waiting. It's asking for big things. I wasn't asking for a car. I wasn't asking for a house. At one moment in my journey, I really was having some housing issues, just going through divorce and going through some financial struggles and being kept from things that were rightly mine. And so I felt I really learned a lot about spiritual warfare. I'd never,
Mm,
ever really kind of sounded like, really, this is kind of hokey. This is weird.
mm-hmm,
This is sort of like a fantasy. Like, what are you talking about? I'm in warfare. And I have become a warrior. I mean, I really have. I realized that the greatest power that we have as believers is the word. The word of
mm,
God is an actual living word. It is a living weapon, if you will,
mm-hmm,
against the enemy. So I really started to struggle with this idea of good and bad, just sort of like things being very divided. And I'm over here and they're over there, and everything's a battle. And I don't know if it truly made me let go of my faith, but I had many moments where I was asking God, how much longer? How much longer do I have to go through this? And I'd say a real defining moment for me was I literally was on my hands and knees,
mm,
crying my eyes out, very scared, very, very submissive, very alone. I'm not afraid of being alone now. I find that my alone time is something that I really cherish because
mm-hmm,
that is when I can not only hear my own voice, but I really can feel and hear what God is doing in my life. And in the Bible, they talk about Jesus constantly looking for that alone time. And
mm-hmm,
and he would go and he would be in the garden and he would look for that time with the Father. So for me, instead of being afraid of it, of being alone, of not having the answers, of having to wait, those things I think can really tip people over the edge of faith and say, well, God doesn't care. He's not listening. My prayers aren't working, and just give up.
mm-hmm,
I knew that God had brought me so far. He had brought me that far, and he had also done good things in my life even through the hardship, that I just knew that I knew that I knew that he was never going to let me down. But I had to really wait. One of the big moments for me was just this last fall. I had a very, very big breakthrough on a business deal that I had been waiting on for a long, long time. And I wasn't sure when that was going to go through. I wasn't sure how it was going to end. And I felt ill-equipped as a woman in a situation that was sort of handed to me that I was not an expert in. And I had to learn very quickly how to manage my circumstances. But God brought me through. You know,
mm-hmm,
He answered that prayer. I think it's really important to, when you are having those moments of doubt, and you are questioning your faith and you're kind of questioning, the power of prayer and all the tools that we have, listening to others who have gone through their own testimony, I think it's really important to start with your own gratitude and your own list of being thankful. I mean, I have one thing in my life, if I'm really, kind of asking for the world and wondering why this hasn't happened and that happened. And I'll say, you know what, God, thank you that I have a mattress under my back, because I have slept on a broken mattress with all my belongings under that mattress in a very humbling circumstance in my life. And it wasn't even my own bed. So I have to start with that. Thank you for that. I have my own bed. There are
mm-hmm,
many people who don't.
yeah,
I had that moment in my life, and I had that moment of worrying about housing and worrying about things that never in my life I thought those circumstances would be mine. So I think doubt, I think the world can creep in. It is hard to be a woman of faith in this world. It's very hard.
yeah,
It's something we have to work at every day. You have to want it. But once you settle in it, and you don't want to settle. You
yeah,
settle in it, but you don't want to settle. You want to keep
mm-hmm,
active.
yeah.
So I have,
And I love that because I'm sure you can relate that it's a cycle of different things that test your
yes,
faith. And I love how you shared how it's a spiritual warfare.
yes,
Early on in my spiritual walk, that was brought to the surface as far as what it is and trying to understand. And you can't really understand it until you are going through it. And
That's
then
right.
you're able to take a step back and understand what that means, a spiritual
Yes.
warfare. Like there's this thing that's happening trying to steal your energy and your soul and your spirit and trying to just abolish who you are.
Yes. Yes. Every
And that's
day.
real.
Every day. It's
Yeah,
real.
every day. The moment you
Every
open your
day.
eyes, before you even open your eyes, things are
Yeah.
already planned and put into motion to take away your energy. And so I've been to what I felt the black hole, right? The
Yeah.
bottomless part of that. I felt like I had no other choice but
Yes.
to just end everything. And
Yes.
it was just that little dot of light from God.
That's right. I've been there too, Jacqueline. And it's great that you mentioned light because light is what permeates the darkness.
Hmm.
There's so much power in light. And that's why I say, I started to look at the world in terms of light, dark, good, evil, very, very stark differences. And once you start going through your journeys, and once you've been to that level of pain or loss or loneliness or trauma, whatever it is, I often tell my daughter, I say, a lot of the things that you go through in your young life with people in your world or circumstances, we're going through this as we age. But the benefit of being older is that we have more experience from which to draw from. So we can
Hmm.
say, I know based on my experience that there's going to be an end to this, that God is truly never going to give us more than we can handle. And certainly it sounds like you have been there, as have I. We feel like we have hit that limit. We have been in that dark place. We do question, just our future and our existence. And
Hmm.
I think that those are really the moments of definition of
Yes.
there's a fork in the road. I'm sure you can identify
Yes.
with that. There's a true fork in the road in those darkest moments where you have to ask yourself, am I going to go up or am I going to go down? Am I going to
Yes.
pick myself up out of this? And you're never alone. I mean, that's the one thing that I have told my children. I said, I can try to teach you so many things, and one day I'm not going to be here, or your dad's not going to be here. And you may be so lonely at moments in your life, even though you have lots of people in your world, you might be so lonely in your soul, but
Mhm.
just know that you're never alone. You are
Yeah.
never, ever alone as a child of God. You have a heavenly presence, and you can do anything through Christ who strengthens you. But believing
Mhm.
that and living it are
Are two
are
different
what
things.
we're asked to
Yeah.
contemplate those things. So it's pain is our moment of defining our purpose. It really does
Yes.
give a lot of clarity. And it's a hard way to get it, but once you
I was
get
just gonna say that. It's
it,
like,
like
why do we
it's
have
really
to?
hard.
But then one thing that I've been sharing recently is words that can bring clarity. And one of the things that I started understanding and now sharing with others is you're right here speaking to me, right? You made it past something. I know you did.
Yeah.
And just that alone brings you to a realization like, oh my gosh, I did go through something and I am here.
Yeah. Right.
Like I made it through. And that's
Yes.
what I'm trying to share. And guess what? You made it through that
Yeah.
and you can
Exactly.
do it again.
That's right.
So it's bringing that realization, bringing it to life, finding ways to really help others really
That's right.
see it and feel it that we're going to get through that.
Going to get through that. That's what I love about your platform, and the things that you are delving into are so meaningful because we're all met with these different challenges, and there's a richness to everybody's story. Everybody has a
Mhm.
story. It's not that one is better than the other. It's just
Yep.
that, you might hear somebody else's story and maybe not identify with it, but you might know somebody else who will.
Yes.
And that's important too. Like you said, just making those connections. We never know. who we're going to meet along the way and what's going to come out of those relationships. But certainly when we make ourselves vulnerable and we show our humility or our brokenness,
Mhm.
and we show that we may not have had it all, or we may not have been the strongest one in the room at that time or the most successful. And it's so easy to compare. I mean, we're in a world where we're constantly comparing. And I'm just really trying to get away from that and define myself in the way that God sees me. That's
Yes.
all that matters. That's
Yes.
it. That's all that
And
matters.
understanding your purpose.
That's right. And it's taken me so long, to really not only have an awareness of that, but to also really try to put that into practice every
Mm.
day and recognize when our mind starts to go off in these insecure
Mhm.
moments and these moments of comparison. I think it's very easy sometimes to say, gee, I wish that I had what she had, or I wish I had that opportunity. And just to remind yourself that if it was meant for you, you would have it, or maybe
Right.
it will in the future. But for now, have joy for that person. There is nothing that gives me more joy, and I mean this with all my heart. I love seeing people's dreams come true. I
Mm.
love that. I love it.
Yeah.
And I think it could be very easy to be jealous, but it's so much more fun to just say, how exciting that that person is really achieving this or that and feeling a peace within your own heart. And I think God has given me and is still working on me for that too, but just really giving me that knowing that I don't have to be defined by the world. I don't have to be defined by who I am, worldly sense, but just knowing that I'm at peace with him. And no
And
matter what comes, is I'm going to be okay.
yeah, and knowing that God has a purpose for all of us and it's different.
Yes.
And even though you and I might do the same thing, the same role, the same job, our purpose is different. And so the word that's been used a lot, the imposter syndrome, thinking, why them, not me, or I want to do that, or, you know, it takes away energy away
Yes.
from us. It
It
takes
does.
away time. And time goes by so fast that if you focus your energy, your mindset, all of that on what others have,
Yeah.
you don't even know if that was meant for you.
No.
So you're holding back yourself from receiving what is truly meant for you.
So true.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's
And
so, so
one thing
true.
that I want to share that and I haven't finished your book yet, but one thing that I had highlighted was you mentioned looking back, I can see now that the struggle was also one of searching for signs of light in the dark to anchor me. That was really powerful. Like, I talk a lot about being rooted, planting your feet on solid ground, and that no matter what shakes you, that once you're in that moment of
Yeah,
being anchored, being rooted, that's a really defining moment
it
to
is.
knowing that you're ready for this warfare, that you're ready
Yes.
for, and it doesn't mean that you're not allowed to feel scared or anything like that. It's okay. These are natural feelings that come through, but knowing that you're rooted, that you're
Oh, yeah.
anchored, oh my
Oh,
gosh.
yeah. It's everything. It really is everything. And thank you for that reminder because sometimes I forget what I wrote. And it's so sweet to hear how meaningful it was to you.
Mhm.
And that's what I had hoped when I did share, some of those moments of just feeling lost, but also very found. And
Mhm.
there is a strength that when you do find your roots, when you do know where to turn when life happens, and life will continue to happen. Life will continue to
Mhm.
have these impossible, seemingly impossible moments, things that don't make any sense. Where do we turn? How do we look up the answers? So the answers are really, they are all in the Bible. I mean, they are in the Bible. And that's a practice, something that I was never really good at. I had a friend in college who brought me a Bible that was a Good News translation. I didn't even know that there were different translations. So, however you're getting the message, however you're getting the word, those are the things that anchor us. Those are the
Mhm.
truth moments. Those
Yeah.
are the kind of the instruction on life. And that has helped me so much.
And so tell me a little bit, just a summary or a glance for listeners. What is your book about?
My book is the faith-filled memoir, and it's a personal journey of a series of events that happened to me in the last decade that became very clear to me the circumstances that I was in a multi-generational patriarchal family system. And I've always been very, very close with my family. I come from a long line of proud Oregonians. And there was some things that came to fruition that I had never, ever seen before when my husband and I decided to divorce. We had been together since high school and we're still good friends, and we decided to amicably split. And in the course of that, I became aware of some things that were happening in a partnership that I was in with my only sibling, and the awareness of deception, greed, and decisions that people I was close to were making, my mother, my father, my brother. So it was a very, very all-encompassing time of discovery. Going through a divorce is one thing, but hoping to be able to lean on your family for emotional support and them not being there was extremely shocking and hard and painful. And then I talk about the journey that I went on. I talk about, I wasn't able to talk about it because I was in a legal process. So I wasn't able for many years to put my words into writing. I had my own story. I had my own truth. Things were being shared about me that were not true, that were hurting me personally. They were hurting my children, hurting me professionally. And that was very, very difficult to have to be silenced. And I always have a lot to say. So
But it's
it was hard. It was really, really hard. And then to find the moment when I was able to write about it. And then I had it legally vetted, and I also had the book edited and gone through I had a Christian publisher. So it was very scrutinized and held to a high standard. And I wanted to write a faith-based memoir because I wanted to be very high level in what I was talking about, and my truth that was coming forth in my life was really based on my walk with God. I wanted to show kind of behind the curtain. I think it's very easy to have perception put on you. People might have an idea of who they think you are based on what they see on social media,
yes.
or maybe they've seen you at an event or something. But I wanted to really show who I am, who I was going through that journey, and hopefully use my pain to inspire others. I really wanted to put truth to it. And I needed to be heard. I had a great desire for my truth and God's truth to come out. And writing has always been cathartic for me. When I went through 9/11 in a very personal way, and we lost a lot of people that we knew, and I had also gone through a forest fire evacuation years ago with my children. When I've gone through these traumatic events, I find that writing has been helpful to put order to the events so that I don't have to keep repeating it and just telling the story. That really helped me kind of put order to the shock or the pain or the loss or even joy. I always say in my mind, I think life is like a bookshelf. And I'm going to date myself when I say, remember the old encyclopedias that we would go
Uh-huh.
to?
I
And there's always,
remember.
the encyclopedias. And so you want information and you're going to go to A, and you're going to look at that one, and then you're going to put it back. And so we have a series of books on a bookshelf that kind of represent our life. And there are some chapters of those series of books that you want to keep revisiting because they make you feel great. So you constantly going to those books and rereading them. Then there are other chapters that you might not want to revisit, but you know that it's there. You know that it's on the shelf. You see for me, I need to kind of see the order, the kind of like the whole linear order of my life. And writing this book was really about recapturing 5 or 6 years of my life that I believe were taken from me. And
Mm,
if I had not written the book, felt like those years were really just taken from me. I had to spend them in ways that I didn't want to, and I had to fight battles that I hadn't anticipated. But through it,
mhm.
God showed up, and I wanted to honor him too. He showed up, and so he gave me the gift of writing, and it was a true honor. And I really felt called to write the book.
What I love about it is that just the chapters that I've gone through, it has me at the edge of the seat. So I
Yeah.
wanted to give you that feedback because it's like really good the way you put the flow together and just you sharing how you have this library bookshelf and you have it in a certain order. I felt that. And I
Yes.
felt the flow and I felt the energy. And I'm like, I can't wait to finish it up.
Thank you.
But it has that flow and that understanding and connection of what you went through
Mhm.
and what you were holding on to get you through it. And
Yes.
so that really showed. So that's amazing. I can't wait. And I know you mentioned a second book, so I can't wait for that. With regards to what we've chatted today, what are 3 tips that you feel our listeners can focus on when they're doubting their faith?
When you're doubting their faith, I think it's really important to have a meeting with yourself and just stop and ask yourself, why am I behaving the way that I'm behaving? Or why do things feel out of sync? Just really, even if you have to just stand in the bathroom mirror and just look at yourself and just have a meeting with yourself and just check in. And that will hopefully lead you to faith. But I think first and foremost, just having the awareness that you need some sort of change in your life and the way you're conducting yourself or the way that you're talking to yourself. Recognize how you're talking to yourself. What is the voice saying? Where is that voice coming from? Are they lies or is it truth? Who is the biggest messenger in your life? So I would tell people to really stop and pay attention to that internal voice. When you start incorporating the word of God into your life and you start to incorporate how he sees you,
Mm,
there's a lot of love in that. But
mhm,
if you're constantly degrading yourself and you're constantly struggling and you're less than and you're broken and things aren't fair, and that is not coming from a place of faith. That is coming from a very dark place.
mhm,
So I would say have a meeting with yourself, recognize how you're talking to yourself, and focus on the good things that have already happened in your
mm,
life. It could be as simple as I said, for me, it was just recognizing that the bed that I sleep on is now my own, or recognizing that, oh, I have a place where I can make a hot meal, or recognizing that I have a friend that I can call today. I have somebody that is willing to listen to me or that I can listen to. Little things, or I can go for a walk in nature. Even if you're in the city, go walk by the bodega and go look at the flowers. Be thankful.
mm,
Find those moments of what God is doing to make your life beautiful, what he has done. And I just think that those are reminders and check-ins to kind of reset the spiraling that we often attach to of like, oh, I haven't done this and this is wrong and this is
mm.
bad. And so it's really about stopping and pausing and
Awesome.
making a few adjustments.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And then if you were granted a superpower,
Ooh.
what do you think it would be?
Oh my gosh. Oh, I have to try not to be too greedy. Well, I think when I'm packing to go somewhere, I always wish I had some ability to just snap my fingers and have the bag already packed. I can't stand back. I'm going here. I'm going to be gone that long, and this is what the weather is, and this is what I don't want it to be over 50 pounds. Like that would be an amazing superpower for me.
I love that one. I
That would
need
save
that
me
one too.
that would save me so much time. Can I be greedy and ask for 2 superpowers if I
Yes.
The
Yes.
other one would be I love to be in so many different places. So many places are like home to me, and I wish they weren't so far apart. And I wish I could just kind of like have a little piece of me here and a little piece of me there and be around
so many people that I love. I'm very thankful that I have so many people in my life that I love, but I wish that I had a superpower to spend more time with them.
Mm,
So
amen.
yeah.
Awesome. Is there anything else that we didn't discuss that you want to share or add in?
I am just honored to be able to speak on this platform because I think that faith is something that can be so misunderstood.
Yeah.
And I am very, very humbled to have this opportunity. And I encourage people to find their own walk with God or whatever their higher power may be, that something outside of themselves that is a greater calling can come into their lives. And that's my greatest hope, is to be an inspiration for that and to use my own experiences that would maybe inspire others to have that joy and have that grounding. And it's a process. I just
Mhm.
really want to inspire people to find that for themselves. So, and
Awesome.
certainly my book is a great tool for that, or other people's voices. Find the voice that resonates with you, whoever is speaking from that higher place and from their own pain. There's so many different different messengers
Mhm.
out there that are great. So that's my hope for your listeners.
Awesome.
I just
And
really
tell me, how can they find you, connect with you? How can they find the book?
Sure. Well, I'm a big Instagram person at Dena McCoy, DenaMcCoy. I'm also on Facebook, and I have a link tree on my Insta for my book. It's on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. So I have carried my book around. I have been so thankful that I have my story, and I look forward to sharing my next one. I'm living book two and
Oh,
writing
awesome.
it. And when I'm called to publish it, it will be published. And I'm really thankful for that. So
Awesome. Well, I'm
I
so
look forward
excited. I
to
can't wait for that. I can't
it.
wait for what the other items that you have in store, and looking forward to reconnecting with you on those other platforms that you're looking to build and inspire. So thank
Thank
you
you.
again for being here, for spending some time with us, and for sharing and being open with your journey and your struggles. And I am just blessed to have you here, truly.
Thank you, Jacqueline. I really appreciate what you're doing for your listeners, and it's a blessing to be here and to know you. Thank you so much.
Likewise. Well, thank you. And thank you everyone for listening and tuning in. And stay tuned. Make sure to follow, subscribe, and make a comment. Stay tuned for the next episode of Inspired by Jacqueline. Take care.